Yes, sirree, here we go on a Sunday morning, the 26th day of April. Do you realize that 4 months ago, December, January, February, March, 4 months ago today, it was Boxing Day. And come on, how many of you ever dreamed beyond your wildest expectations that you'd be in the boat that you're in this morning? I didn't. Come on, you didn't either, did you? Yeah, man. Having said that, I am ecstatic because I do feel with all my heart that we do have an awful lot to be thankful for. I am very thankful on this Sunday morning, especially the fact that you guys are here. And we're still breathing, you know, come what may, we're still breathing. So what is there to not be thankful about? Come on. I certainly hope that you're going to pause and reflect this weekend. Yeah, pause and reflect. And believe me, there's a lot to think about, you know. A lot of people have been crying out for this curfew to be lifted. Yeah, I understand that. A lot of people going batty, going nuts. But I'll tell you, my dear friend, think about the consequences of having a rehash of what we now have. Yeah, I think you might think a little bit differently if you're really willing to sit and seriously ponder, seriously reflect. So, to make a long story short, just be thankful that you're alive this morning, that you have this day to look forward to. You've got the rest of your life to look forward to. A lot of people don't have that luxury this morning. See, in the United States alone this morning, more than 54,000. 54,000. You're talking about half the population of this country gone. They're not here with us this morning. Yeah. I found out last night, you know, up until I think it was the day before, I had heard that there were about 50 Grenadians living in the United States and other places who had passed away as a result of this virus. Last night, I heard it's more like 75. Okay? So, you're not one of them. And I'm glad. I'm really glad that you're here with us this morning. Alrighty, folks, let's take a look at the rundown and see what's cooking here this morning. We do have, I guess you might say two editorials this morning. One is actually the regular editorial from the New Today, and that one is captioned, "The WHO Guidelines, World Health Organization Guidelines." Don't have to wait much longer to find out what that's about. The other one is actually a piece, very nicely written piece, which was sent to me by our good friend Ray Roberts this past week. He asked me to publish that on the GrenadaBroadcast.com website, which I did, so you may go look it up. It's, maybe read along with me. It's called Saluting Grenada. It's captioned, Saluting Grenada, Saluting Grenlec, but my tears are plenty for Grenada. Folks, go take a look at that and you'll see it's one of the most read pieces on the site right now. People have just gone after that like wildfire. Check it out. So On Friday night, when we did Goodnight Grenada, I read that piece on the program, and I thought, let me share that with you guys this morning, because again, not everybody is able to join us on Friday nights or nighttime period. So we're going to run that by you. I'm going to rebroadcast the piece that I read on Friday night. And you'll also get to hear Brian, the PITT-STOP man. Brian had a couple of things to say about that piece as well. Okay, so those are the two editorials for you this morning. Then we get down to features. There are actually 3 features this morning. The first one I'm going to run is actually an excerpt from a press conference that was held a couple of days ago, in which the Minister of Health, or the Health Minister, Nickolas Steele, announced that we now have 3 additional cases of COVID-19 here. 3 more positive. He was joined by the Acting Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Francis Martin, and the coordinator of the COVID response team, Dr. George Mitchell. So we're going to play that for you this morning. It's probably about 22 minutes, I think. All right. I mentioned a little while ago, Brian Pitt. Brian and I had our usual Friday night tete-a-tete a couple of nights ago. And I thought that was interesting as well. So we're going to bring you Brian's PITT-STOP this morning. That's our second feature. And then. Yeah, we've been talking about this for the past couple of weeks, haven't we? My dear friends, just in case you haven't yet noticed, there's a change in the parliamentary landscape in this country. Grenada now has an opposition leader in the person of Tobias Clement. Well, you're going to get to meet this man face to face this morning. I spoke with him as recently as late yesterday. Yeah. He's going to be joining us at about 10:30 this morning. All right? And I'm looking forward to that. A lot of questions we have for this gentleman, and by we I mean, a couple of weeks ago, a New York-based journalist by the name of Clement and I were at an electronic press conference with Mr. Clement, and we never got around to asking all the questions we wanted to ask. Not sure we're going to get around to doing that this morning either. However, I did mention that I wanted to have this gentleman on the program, and I also asked Cullen if he would like to join us, so he's going to be joining us this morning as well. Okay? So, that's it for your rundown this morning. Taking our time now to, where are we? 9 minutes after 9 o'clock. Beautiful morning here. Beautiful. It's just an uneasy quiet, Stood on the balcony there this morning. I love the view from the balcony up here. But you look out, and normally, even on a Sunday morning, you'd see cars going around the carnage. Nothing, let alone people walking. It's just an uneasy feeling. And I keep telling myself, hey, George, by next week you'll get used to it. Geez, George, it's gone, 4 weeks now? And I'm not used to seeing things just so quiet. It's nice because it's peaceful, You look up there this morning, hardly a cloud in the sky. Nothing on the road, Hey, nothing to bitch about there. It's nice and quiet. It's just an uneasy feeling. I will be the first to admit, though, it's also a beautiful feeling. Now, let me say good morning to at least some of the pilgrims who are already out there. Oswin Lewis is watching from St. Vincent. Well, hello there, Oswin Lewis. How are you, my friend? Love to meet you one of these days. Margaret Rollo is wishing you guys a happy Sunday. And Margaret is in Decatur, Georgia. Hey, Mags. Hey, Mags number 2. How do you guys feel about, reopening shops and everything for business? This morning I was watching a bit of a debate there on CNN about that. Apparently they're not very happy campers out there. Floyd Bishop says, good morning to you, George, and class from Brooklyn, New York. Oh, that's where he is this morning, Brooklyn. Good morning, sir. Trini62 is saying, good morning, everyone. Good to see you, Trini. Kipling Francis saying good morning. John Nosy Necked saying, stay safe to every one of you guys. Hey, John, we're doing the best we can. It's not easy to get into mischief nowadays, is it? That's good. Tanya Phillip is saying, good morning, Gigi and comrades. Beautiful red, my brother. Oh, yeah. Don't ask me what got into me this morning, but I had to say, you know what? Go give him some red this morning. Yeah. Thanks for noticing, Tanya. Tana. It's not Tanya. It's Tana or Tana. Theo Richards is sending God's blessings to everybody. Good to see you, Theo. He said, red represents, where is it? Red represents the agility of the Grenadian people. Nice red, George. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And would you believe, red is one of my least favorite colors. There are 2 colors that just drive me gaga. Red and yellow. Red and yellow. I just do not like those colors at all. But I don't know, somehow this one, I got a hot flash this morning. Okay, so that's it. And he says, oh, I'm in Illinois this morning. When are you coming down this way, man? You're still waiting on them to build a bridge between Florida and the Bahamas and down the chain of islands? Yeah. Okay. So that's going to take care of our first batch of good mornings to you guys. And we're going to take a little break now. And after that, we'll be back with this week's edition of The Buzz. And by the way, notice I did not mention Little Angel this morning. Good reason for that. Little Angel is not going to be with us this morning. Okay, Little Angel, we're going to miss you big time. See you next week, my friend.
A hero is someone who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. Indeed, our heroes walk amongst us, and they have been working around the clock during this COVID-19 pandemic to keep Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique safe. To all our essential and frontline workers, the Ministry of Tourism and Civil Aviation and the Grenada Tourism Authority salute you and thank you for your sacrifice and service. May God continue to bless you and your family.
Today I'm going to show you how to do a homemade mask, since it's now being suggested that when people go out into the public, they use a mask. Now, I know that it's very tough to come by masks, so I'm going to show you how to make a homemade mask. First of all, this is fairly easy and this can be washed every day. Just get a piece of material. In this case, I've used a scarf, and fold it in half like this, and then fold it in half again. And then what you do is you would need 2 rubber bands like this, and you put these rubber bands in on either end, like so, and then take the rest of the material and fold it to the middle like this. And you have a mask that you can use when you go out, like this. Very simple, and this can be used to go out to ensure that droplets don't get to you and to discourage you from actually touching your face. In the meantime, I ask that you wash your hands frequently, don't touch your face, use hand sanitizers when you can, try not to eat in public without eating utensils, and when you can, wear a mask out, which can be made at home, as I showed you. Thank you very much.
My granddaughter.
COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy. To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal. When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
Alrighty, folks, we are back. It's now, let's see, 18 minutes after the hour. A couple of comments before we move on to the buzz here. A couple of comments. Margaret says, George, the majority of Georgia does not approve of the governor's decision and continue to uphold the stay-in-place order. I have not left the house since I got home on Friday evening. Good for you, girl. Good for you. I got the feeling that there's been quite a bit of resentment to the governor's decision. Oh, yeah, politics. Bob Marichaux says, good morning, class. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I have not heard the ambulance nor the fire truck in a while now. You know, I think towards the end of last year, we were actually talking about the fact that, I don't know what happened, but for some reason, all day long, you were hearing sirens and ambulances, okay, all over the place, every day. Well, you know, since this COVID thing started, you're still hearing them, but only occasionally, a lot less frequently. And I have not seen the fire truck going out to, take care of fires, usually at this time of the year. You have a lot of bushfires all over the place. I'm not saying it's not happening, but I'm certainly not seeing sort of action that we were last year. All right, folks, let's get down to this week's edition of The Buzz. And we begin, as always, with an opening passage from the Holy Scriptures. This morning, it comes to you from the first book of Peter. Peter, chapter 5, verses 2 to 11. Be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care, watching over them, not because you must, but because you are willing, as God wants you to be, not pursuing dishonest gain, but eager to serve, not lording it over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that will never, ever fade away. All right? In the same way, you who are younger, submit yourselves to your elders. All of you, clothe yourselves with humility towards one another, because God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. Cast all of your anxiety on him, because he cares for you. Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same kind of sufferings. And the God of all grace, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you, make you strong, firm, and steadfast. To him be the power forever and ever. Check it out yourselves, my dear friends. First book of Peter, chapter 5, verses 2 to 11. Take another look here, take another look. Thea Richards is complimenting Mags number 2 for staying indoors. Yeah. Uneasy feeling, boy, but this too shall pass. This too shall pass. All right. I'll tell you what. Take another quick little break here, and then we shall return with the first of our 2 editorials, the one from the New Today, right after this.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have core bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Together with you, our customers, we energize our community.
Together with you, we energize our economy.
We are working together to give our nation a better tomorrow.
With you, we energize our future. Together, we energize our nation.
Thank you for partnering with us as we energize our Spice Island.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Conveniently located in the Grand Shopping Center, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair Grenada will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep.
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
Well, my dear friends, Ryan's a little bit late this morning, but nevertheless, he is here. Good morning to you, Ryan. Good to see you. Folks, on this, the 26th day of April, here comes the editorial which appeared in Friday's edition of The New Today. It is captioned, The WHO Guidelines. The New Today senses that the Keith Mitchell-led New National Party government is anxious to not only return Grenada to a state of normalcy, but to reopen Grenada's borders to the outside world. Like other countries, the administration in St. George's is grappling with the sensitive issue of whether opening up the borders too soon might result in an increase in COVID-19 positive cases. The government is moving in the correct direction of gradually allowing various sectors of the economy to return to work. It is quite natural for some businesses in the economy to feel that they too should be given the all clear to open up to the public because of the loss of money in the past month, while salaries and bills still have to be paid. The government is mindful that it is losing millions in revenue due to the downturn of economic activities on the island, as both the Customs Department and the Inland Revenue Department of the Ministry of Finance have seen a significant drop in their monthly financial intakes. In addition, the World Bank is projecting difficult days ahead for Grenada, with the economy expected to see a minus 7.3% growth over the next 12 months. This must have come as a shock to most Grenadians, who were consistently told over the years that the NNP administration had built up an economy that was the envy of many countries, not only in the Caribbean, but in the rest of the world. COVID has now provided an opportunity for the political opposition to put forward an alternative path to solid growth and economic development to Dr. Mitchell's reliance on selling of passports through the Citizenship by Investment program and building hotels in the tourism industry at the expense of agriculture. Busy people there this morning, aren't you guys? Yeah. The fact of the matter is that once there is no vaccine to deal with the coronavirus, the world would not return to a state of normalcy to allow people to go about their business in the usual scheme of things, as in the recent past. This is why the Mitchell government has to think twice and be extremely careful on the timing of the reopening of the Maurice Bishop International Airport to commercial air traffic, especially from high-risk places like the United States and the United Kingdom. The two Caribbean islands most frequented by Grenadians are Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago, and both have worrying COVID-19 figures. It is not the intention of this newspaper to belabor what is emerging as the bungling of the issue of American Airlines and its proposals sent to the relevant authorities in Grenada to address the request submitted to resume flights to the airport. It is clear that an application was sent in and that no one dealt with the issue in a timely manner to inform American Airlines in clear and unambiguous language that MBIA will remain closed for the time being. The New Today wishes to bring to the attention of the authorities in Grenada and the country several important questions that should be addressed by government in arriving at the important decision to reopen the country to the outside world. The issues arose from the guidelines which were put together by the World Health Organization of the United Nations as it relates to the steps that ought to be taken to ease restrictions and open up to the outside world. The WHO points out, 1, that evidence shows COVID-19 transmission is controlled. 2, that public health and health system capacities, including hospitals, are in place to identify, isolate, test, trace contacts, and quarantine them. 3, that outbreak risks are minimized in high vulnerability settings, particularly in homes for the elderly, mental health facilities, and people residing in crowded places. 4, that workplace preventative measures are established with physical distancing, hand-washing facilities, respiratory etiquette in place. 5, that importation risks can be managed. And 6, that communities have a voice and are engaged in the transition. The simple message from the WHO is quite straightforward. If you cannot ensure these criteria are in place before easing restrictions, please rethink. The Mitchell-led government should tread carefully and know that it is not a decision that has to be taken by the cabinet of ministers or by themselves on opening the borders, but that the people of Grenada Carriacou and Petite Martinique must have a say in the final decision. Grenadians of all shades, supporters of yellow and green and other colors, are still living in fear of the virus. That, Pilgrims, is your editorial, which appeared this past week's edition of The New Today. Okay, Georgie Porgy, let's take a look here again at social media. Okay. All right. Isaac Joseph is saying good morning. He says to the class and other listening and viewing in the audience, did you all make your noise last night at 7 to 7:05 p.m.? Was it last night, OP? I thought that was on Friday. You're running a day late, sir. Maria, hello there, Maria. Say good morning. Ryan says he's rising slowly, but up since 5 a.m. listening to Grenada internet radio stations and blogging with friends around the world. Hey, good for you, man. Enjoying retirement and isolation too, I would imagine. Elizabeth Roberts. Elizabeth Roberts. Say good morning. Bradley Vespre is sending salutations to his classmates here. John Nosynek says COVID-19 has wiped out the chance of any tourism resurgence soon, which the Caribbean relies on. Boy, ain't that a truth. Ain't that the truth. You know, I was talking to somebody yesterday, I think it was, and the person was making the point to me that prior to this thing hitting us, you know, like towards the end of last year, we were hearing how well, extremely well, the tourism industry had been doing here. And now, in such a short space of time, we're hearing these same hoteliers crying out, help! Short space of time. What happened to the wellness they were experiencing just last year? I guess things can turn around in a short time. Okie doke. Tana Phillips says NDC represents 41% of the population and received 23,000 votes. But Tuesday, GBN decided to respect the NDC and supporters by removing them and having Mr. Clement, the new opposition, into that slot. Well, that's debatable. You know, as far as I know, that slot was actually designed or intended for the opposition. And there wasn't a so-called opposition per se. Now there is. So GBN just reverted to the initial plan. I don't see the big deal there at all. Ryan says the dominant Grenada perspective of tourism and building of hotels and selling of our passports via CBI at the expense of agricultural food security is fickle and unstable. Yes, sir. Theo Richard says, Tana, believe it or not, the space on GBN is for the opposition leader. That's what I just said, Theo. And as such, the NDC would definitely have to discuss other means. Thank you, sir, clarifying that. Okay. Okie doke. I think that's going to do it for the time being. Where are we? Right now, I would like us to go to that piece that was written by Mr. Ray Roberts this past week. Check it out. It's published on the GrenadaBroadcast.com website. And he is saluting Grenlec but at the same time, shedding a tear for Grenada. Check this out. Grenlec, WRB/GPP, is definitely a model employer. The workers represented by TAU and the company under the leadership of Mr. Robert Blanchard, together have built an institution of great repute, one that all of Grenada ought to be proud of. Grenlec's awesome hallmark is the company's reliability and consistency 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days per year. Your electricity is guaranteed. And industrial challenges are generally amicably resolved. Its service is unparalleled in the long history of electricity in Grenada, a complete contrast to the period when it was managed by the current Minister of Works, Gregory Bowen. Under his stewardship, you would be very lucky to receive electricity 8 hours per day. Equally outstanding is Grenlec's track record supporting community and social development across the nation. The company has funded libraries and schools, sponsored the inter-secondary schools debate, invested in lighting and improving playing fields, supported several children's and senior citizens' homes, and the list can go on and on. In summary, Grenlec is head and shoulders above all private sector companies operating in Grenada when it comes to supporting social development. So it begs the question, why would the government of Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell do everything possible, including trickery and lies, to rid the workers and the people of Grenada of a par excellent workplace? This May Day, International Workers' Day, as a former General Secretary of the Grenada Trade Union Council, I encourage workers to recognize Grenlec. It is definitely a genuinely good corporate citizen. The workers employed with the company have a tremendous contract, which, among other things, provides for profit sharing, health insurance, and a top-of-the-line health and safety care system. Sadly, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell will close this glittering chapter of the current Grenlec, having announced in Parliament that his government will take control of the company. First, Dr. Mitchell must find hundreds of millions of dollars from a cash-strapped Grenada treasury to pay in compensation after his government lost its case in the International Court of Justice against WRB, GPP, Grenlec. In the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic, the question is, where will the Prime Minister find this sum of money that is way beyond the capacity of the national budget for 2020? Speculation is that the Chinese or some unknown characters involved in the selling of Grenadian passports will come to the rescue. Again, it begs the question, at what price to the people of Grenada? Grenlec's return to the control of government, and more so under the stewardship of the Ministry of Works led by Gregory Bowen, ought to be a frightening experience going forward. The Worrell Commission, which investigated the Bowen-managed Grenlec 3 decades ago, during the period when Dr. Mitchell served as Minister of Works, reported that corruption was rampant in that state-owned entity. Go read the report and see for yourself. In conclusion, the Prime Minister has spent much of his political life raging a spiteful and bitter war against Grenlec, which finally ended in the International Court with a crushing defeat and a huge bill for the taxpayers. His shameless, big ego does not allow him to graciously acknowledge defeat. Instead, he chooses another of his clever practices, offering a suffering Grenadian people a 30% cut in their electricity bills for 3 months, while making absolutely no mention that WRB GPP's compensation is astronomical. He conveniently forgets to tell Grenadians that the current Grenlec shareholders must be paid millions of dollars. These shareholders will all run to the bank happily, thanks to the kind compliments of another Keith Mitchell giveaway. What a pity that so many Grenadians are susceptible to lies and trickery at the expense of morality and decency. It troubles me that for so long, so many citizens continue to turn a blind eye to a long, extensive list of unfulfilled promises, going back to the use of state income to fund a failed call center, a lavish turning of the soil in Mount Hartman for several hotel projects, the announcement ahead of the 2018 general elections. Remember that one? That Grenada is ready for a period of economic prosperity with the Russian discovery of oil and gas in our waters. And of course, the Victoria Shrimp Farm and St. Patrick Hotel projects. We salute WRB, GPP, and the workers for building a model institution. Looking ahead, we salute the WRB, GPP, and workers for building a model institution. Looking ahead to the government control of Grenlec, we pray that history does not repeat itself under the Mitchell-Bowen stewardship. Whew. Bill Gribbs. Okie dokie, yes sirree, yes sirree, yes sirree. That recording was done on Friday night. It's a piece written by Mr. Ray Roberts. Thank you very much, Ray. Nicely done. Folks, it's now 12 minutes away from the hour. A little reminder here, I got a little favor to ask of you. While you're on the site today, watching us on YouTube, and I see that there are a number of you out there who are doing that this morning, I want to say thank you to those of you who have been giving us kudos for making the switch from Facebook to YouTube. Apparently, at least in most instances, it's working out beautifully. You're getting a much better picture. It's easier to keep track of us, etc., etc., etc. Thank you so much. Do me a favor, though. While you're there this morning, would you kindly subscribe to us? Pretty please? What that would do is whenever we do a live program, and God knows, these days, it's not just this program on a Sunday morning and the Good Night Grenada program on weeknights. Throughout the week, at various times, you'll notice that we're doing lives. That's because there have been a lot of press conferences being held either by the Ministry of Health, the Prime Minister, the Royal Grenada Police Force, whoever. They're trying to keep the nation abreast of what's going on. And sometimes we get these calls for spontaneous press conferences. So please, if you do subscribe to us, whenever we do one of these lives, you will be notified, okay? And that will help to keep you in the loop, if you will. And that would also keep me very happy. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Now, break time, and then we're going to come back with Brian Pitt. Brian Pitt. You know, I consider myself so fortunate to be able to sit and talk with Alan on a Thursday and Brian on a Friday and Sharon on a Wednesday and Ray on a Tuesday. I mean, what a team of people. If you guys haven't been keeping track of these folks, please, you need to start doing it. They make some sterling contributions on this platform. Check them out. Weeknights at 8 o'clock, yeah, between 8 and 9. Okay, break time.
A hero is someone who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. Indeed, our heroes walk amongst us, and they have been working around the clock during this COVID-19 pandemic to keep Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique safe. To all our essential and frontline workers, the Ministry of Tourism and Civil Aviation and the Grenada Tourism Authority salute you and thank you for your sacrifice and service. May God continue to bless you and your family.
Today I'm going to show you how to do a homemade mask, since it's now being suggested that when people go out into the public, they use a mask. Now I know that it's very tough to come by masks, so I'm going to show you how to make a homemade mask. First of all, this is fairly easy and this can be washed every day. Just get a piece of material. In this case I've used a scarf, and fold it in half like this, and then fold it in half again. And then what you do is you would need 2 rubber bands like this, and you put these rubber bands in on either end like so, and then take the rest of the material and fold it to the middle like this, and you have a mask that you can use when you go out like this. Very simple, and this can be used to go out to ensure that droplets don't get to you and to discourage you from actually touching your face. In the meantime, I ask that you wash your hands frequently, don't touch your face, use hand sanitizers when you can, try not to eat in public without eating utensils, and when you can, wear a mask out, which can be made at home as I showed you. Thank you very much.
My granddaughter.
COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy. To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal. When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
Alrighty, folks, right now, I'd like you to kick your shoes off, settle down and have some fun here with Mr. Brian Pitt from his appearance on Friday night. You are unleashed. Go.
But George, I'm going to let you guide me through this thing because it's a maze. This guy called Trump. Let me start there because, my grandmother used to say, "What is joke for school children is death for crapo."
Yes, I remember that.
Remember that, George?
Yes, sir.
This man is the leader of the free world, Yes. United States of America, the greatest country on the face of the earth, they say.
Not anymore.
This guy, and it's absolutely amazing. What he said today, he was being sarcastic.
No.
Oh my goodness. But the hard thing about it, George, the serious thing about it is that while Trump is doing all these antics and encouraging people to demonstrate, now this guy might very well cause some rioting in the United States, having different states open at different times. It can cause some problems. And that is being promoted by most of the major networks. This guy is using the major networks in the United States like you would not believe. I mean, this is ridiculous. But I tell you, if the ridiculous nature of his actions continue, America will remain the epicenter of this virus for a long time. And if that happens without a vaccine, we will suffer. SGU, all the apartments in the south of the island, our economy is based on what happens in the USA. So maybe we should not be laughing at this guy, but doing all we can to make sure that he does not get reelected in the United States. Call our family, call our friends, and make sure that this guy is not reelected, because if he is, we're in big trouble.
Thanks for the reminder, Mr. Pitt.
No, we have to remind ourselves all the time, Ray wrote a very good piece, George.
Before you get to Ray, let me say this, I mentioned that I saw a photograph today which really cracked me up. It's a picture of somebody in a hospital with his pants down. He's bent over.
Yeah, I saw.
You saw that? He's bent over on a table, and there's a very long hose. I mean, it's almost as big as a fire hose, okay? One end of it is attached to a part of this gentleman's anatomy. And at the other end of the hose is a big bottle of Clorox. And I thought, oh my God. Oh my God. Anyway, at least he's giving the United States and the world a laugh. Go ahead.
No, he's not. He's putting the rest of the world in trouble, and he's causing China to take a leadership position in the rest of the world, which is also going to put us in trouble. If this, the piece that you just played is true, and I have a feeling that it is, because there's evidence to prove that. There's also evidence to prove that the Chinese have been, over the history of the world, have been occupiers, you know, and when they arrive, they don't leave. And they're not too good to people that are not Chinese. I believe there are a lot of African countries that are now complaining about how their nationals are being treated in China. You know, we might argue, and some of our politicians who want to stay in power, who see China as the liberators to stay in power, might very well argue that this would not happen to them. And that is typical about how we think, George. But it will happen sooner or later to all of us if we become totally dependent on Chinese grant and aid. It will happen. Yes?
Yeah.
And I'm going to tie this to Ray's piece, because Ray wrote a very interesting piece, and Ray's right, absolutely right. I saw another piece on your website, George. Some guy, I don't remember his name, put together the falsehoods and the truths about what the government has been saying about Grenlec over time. And that, to me, should be a piece that should be printed and used as an insert in the newspapers, because a lot of Grenadians should have access to that information. Now, think of it. Grenlec has done this excellent job. I think all of us can testify to that. Any company taking over Grenlec right now, George, I can't see them wanting less than 100% of that company. Because as Alan has pointed out from time to time, the market is only about 60,000 people. And in those 60,000 people, you have all the hotels, which we are providing for with some special deal under the regulatory authority, SGU, and all the rooms that are now built in the True Blue area. A small percentage of the consumers are in fact John Public, you know. So I can't see a company taking over Grenlec and doing it with less than 100% of that company. Yes? Mm-hmm. Which means we're going right back into monopoly. Unless somebody knows something that I don't know, George, we're going from the frying pan into the fire.
The fire, yeah.
And we're going to regret this. And I can't help but think all the enablers that are allowing this to happen, George, all the enablers that are allowing this to happen, including some of my very good friends, who pretending that they don't see the fallout in this thing. But there's going to be a fallout. I mean, it's good now because the price of oil is coming down. In the United States, it was a negative number, you know. They had to beg people to take the oil, you know, in the United States. Yes, it was minus something or the other, huh? Because with this COVID-19, people are not traveling, so they're not consuming a lot of fuel. So the price will remain down for a while. So we will in fact enjoy a reduction in the bill that we get from Grenlec. No thanks to the government of Grenada. And this is what I don't appreciate about the enablers. The Prime Minister gets there in Parliament and talks about this 30% reduction over 3 months. Nonsense.
You know, I was very happy to see a piece that was put out by Grenlec this week, explaining to Canadians that the price drop that they're experiencing is because of the lower price of oil. You know?
Yes. And I don't know why we are so accommodating to the lyrics of the politicians of today. They're driving us down a road, George, and I don't know if we can come out, and they're driving us down this road where we will have a hell of a time recovering from COVID-19.
Brian, it's because the masses out there are still very dependent. They are still under the grasp of
but there's leadership, George. There's leadership in the masses. Where's the leadership? There are trade union. There's a trade union that represents the workers at Grenlec, that have enjoyed all these benefits for their employees over time. But where is the leadership? I mean, people. Let's leave that one alone, because that only time will tell, George, whether this is a good move or not. I will bet my money that we will suffer because of this move.
Trini 62. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Providing that the government of Grenada can find the money to pay Grenlec off, because I have a dangerous feeling that at the end of the day, WRB might very well be around for a while, if we can't come up with the money plus interest.
I doubt. I would love to see that happen, but I doubt it's going to happen, because I really do believe that the government has those resources, and there are resources that where those resources are coming from.
And it's a hostile environment for Grenlec, so they want to leave. I would imagine they want to leave. Yeah.
Okay. Trini 62 says, Brian, you're quite right in your assessment of Trump and the effects. Problem is, too many people fail to see how all these things are interrelated. That's right, she says. Trump leading the U.S. away from international organizations has left a vacuum in world leadership, which China has filled and is filling. So says Trini 62.
Trini's absolutely right. And that is the debate that is taking place throughout the world. Yeah? I mean, there was a video conference today, I believe, or yesterday, from the World Health Organization, where a lot of countries came together and committing to do the research necessary for a vaccine. And also committing that once that vaccine is found, it must be shared at reasonable cost to the whole world. Yes, George?
Mm-hmm.
China and the United States was not present. France was there, Germany was there, a lot of other countries were there. The United States and China was not present. So they are now at the outskirts fighting for dominance. And to be quite honest with you, the Chinese have the upper hand. Because both countries, George, can print a lot of money.
Moolah.
That's what it is. And most of the politicians in this region and the African countries that are now suffering, and many parts of the world, who have an ambition of staying in power for life, need the money. It's going to cost a hell of a lot of money in the next election campaign in Grenada, I take it, because, I mean, some of these artists that haven't worked for a long time will charge us a hefty fee to be the headliner in a campaign rally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll quickly discover that the money is there when it's really needed, and not in areas where it's really needed, like healthcare, for example. All right, Brian, did you hear the news today that in the United States the death toll has now risen to over 51,000?
Yes.
That's alarming, isn't it? You're talking half the population of this country, boy?
Yes, and you are talking about the majority of the Grenadian diaspora is living in the United States.
Yeah. I understand.
They're the ones that's remitting now, huh?
And I understand that more than 50 of them are gone. Grenadians.
Listen, and the United States is the lead domino. Once that domino starts to fall, we're going to suffer, George.
Yeah.
Tobias Clement, George.
I hope you're going to join me on Sunday morning, you know. I really hope you're going to join us on Sunday morning.
Well, I couldn't help but listening to a press conference, not a press conference, it was something on another radio station. He did an interview. And the leader of the opposition was trying very hard not to answer questions. Being very thoughtful and methodical in his answers. But when the question came up about money, he fell apart. And you could see him, I couldn't see him, but you know, his reaction and response was saying, listen, I deserve to be paid a little bit more. Now, my problem with Tobias Clement was, once he recognized that he couldn't work within the NNP, why didn't he leave a long time ago? Because that would have given him more money and given him the opportunity to appoint 3 senators. Yes, George?
Yeah.
So I am listening to him, and I couldn't help but thinking, but hey, now, this guy is still green, you know. And if I know Dr. Mitchell and the NNP, they're going to throw the kitchen sink at him in the next general election. You know?
You asked the question, why did he stay so long? You know, the same question was asked of Terry Forrester. I mean, look at Terry. Terry's ranting and raving against the NNP right now. But how long did he stay with these guys?
You know, the funny thing, George, is that anybody who leaves the NNP over the years have had a cordial kind of relationship with the NNP, you know. Although they talk about the corruption that may or may not be taking place, they never talk about it publicly, you know. They talk about everything else under the sun. Yes? Tobias is going to talk about the matter of that members of parliament should be earning more money. He will be talking about the dictatorial kind of approach to governance of the Prime Minister. But he wouldn't talk about some of the questions that the public has had about whether or not governance is in fact transparent. You're smiling, George.
Why should he?
You know? I don't know.
Did you hear that a contingent from the National Democratic Congress met this week with Mr. Clement? Did you hear that?
No, I didn't. I know. I don't know. That's I guess that's political maneuvering. Did we hear the result of that meeting?
No, I was hoping you had. I haven't heard the result. What I did hear, I heard 2 things. One, they were talking with him about, you know, possible appointments to the Senate, and 2, getting back some airtime on GBN. Apparently, GBN has a segment, I think it's on Tuesday mornings, for the leader of the opposition. And because there has been no opposition, the NDC has been filling that slot. Well, this week they were in for a rude awakening, as I understand it, when they found that.
The question is, George, who initiated that conversation?
Which
Did
conversation?
Clement initiate the conversation between Clement and the NDC? If that conversation took place at all, who initiated the conversation?
Okay, I see
did
your
Clement call or did the NDC call? Because that's important as we go forward. But the leader of the opposition has the right to that airtime. There's a lot of perks to being leader of the opposition, you know. Maybe Clement didn't realize that a few months ago. But just to appoint 3 senators alone, and he has to get an office, I believe. I think there's a budget for the leader of the opposition's office. He can hire staff. So there's a lot of perks that go along with the leader of the opposition. Maybe you better get a constitutional expert to advise us on this. But I am surprised that he's taking this law. I would be interested to find out who initiated the conversation? Did he call the NDC or did the NDC call him?
All right. I'm going to have that question down on the list for Sunday morning. Actually, we'll give you a chance to fire that one yourself on Sunday morning. Okay. There's something else I wanted to mention too. Oh, yeah. Are you finished making your noise? Did you make noise at 7 o'clock tonight?
I heard an interesting comment, George, by a gentleman on the BBC recently. It went something like this. There is too much imitation and not enough innovation as far as COVID-19 is concerned. One cap does not fit all. You know, this morning, and I'm going to deviate for a minute. This morning, the police announced that you can go and clear a barrel. Yes? But after you clear the barrel, you could not hire a vehicle to get the barrel to where you're going. You heard that, George?
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm saying to myself, but hold on a minute. That you can make the arrangement with the agent to get your barrel home. So am I to assume that the agent will charge me for trucking the barrel from the pier to my home? Now, for those guys who are making this announcement or putting this thing into play, do they realize that people in a village will come together and the 10 or 15 barrels from that village, one truck will go down and pick them all up and bring them up? And everybody might pay $40? But you put this thing in place, but you have a piece of legislation in existence right now that say that you can't hire a vehicle. So how is this thing going to work?
You're not asking me, are you?
Too much imitation, George, and not enough innovation. So they're making noise in New York and London and Italy and Spain. Death toll is very high. The caregivers, the people who are working a lot in these hospitals are getting infected. I hope that we are testing all the frontline people in Grenada, George, before we start making this noise, you know. Which comes first, the noise or the testing? Does that answer your question, George?
No, but I'm going to have to accept it. Because I'm running out of time here. There are a couple of comments here. Trini62 says, don't know how much remittances you will be getting this year. The World Bank already predicts a 28% drop. That is a lot for countries in the Caribbean. She also says, yes, Brian, I think that barrel thing sailed over a lot of people's head. You just put the barrel on your back and drop it like a donkey and drog it like a donkey.
I don't know. This is amazing.
Brian, they live among us. They live among us. She says, Brian, two of my docs got ill. Her docs? What docs? One is recovering. Oh, okay. One is recovering, the other remains critical. So for me, it's personal. Yeah?
Yes.
John says, in the UK, they do a mass clap for frontline workers. You know, I have to admit, I heard about this call to make noise tonight, and I'd seen it happen in other parts of the world, and I thought, okay, that's just a copycat thing. But I did not really expect that they would respond the way they did. I stood here on the balcony, I saw the fireworks on Fort George. There were yachts down in the lagoon sending up flares. Here on Willett Road, there are people beating pan and people beating boxes and so on. There was a lot of noise.
Which is good.
Very good. Yes. I was very pleasantly surprised. However, I then phoned my sister, who lives right next to Excel Plaza, in Grand Anse. And she says, they noticed absolutely nothing going on down there. So it seemed like a city thing that, happened tonight.
Well, I would prefer if they came out tomorrow and tell me that that all the frontline people were tested and they're all okay. They're all negative. Because I don't know, George, if we've seen the end of this thing, because we have some workers that will be home soon from the cruise ships. Now, I imagine they'll be quarantined for the 14 days. But this virus, you can carry the virus and not get too sick, huh?
Yeah. I'm sure you heard the superintendent of the police mention this morning. He was asked of all the people in the police force how many had been tested. Didn't have an answer. He was not even sure how many people he had in this force. I think he said about 1,100 people, but he had no clue as to how many had been tested. That sort of supports the point you were just making.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's going to do it, Brian. Boy, again, let me remind you, Sunday morning, 10:30. Sunday morning, 10:30.
Just quickly before I go, George. Just quickly before I go. You had a very interesting program this week when you were talking about food security.
Oh, Sunday.
Was it Sunday?
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but notice the average age of those people talking about food security, George, might have been late 20s, early 30s.
Absolutely.
They're young people. Yeah. They're young people, George, talking about food security and agriculture, which gives me hope. But you know what was missing from that conversation, George?
Tell me.
Where is the money going to come from? Now, I remember a conversation that we had with Tessa Barry and Michael Archibald was having this conversation
right.
about whether or not it's a good investment to invest in agriculture. And I don't think that Tessa was too happy with the response that she got. The traditional banking institutions do not see agriculture as a viable venture.
Yeah.
So where these 5 people that you had on that program, they all spoke very well. They have great plans, but I couldn't help but thinking, where are they going to get the money from to not only go into agriculture, but to add value to whatever they are producing?
Brian, I thank you for pointing out the fact that it was a good program, because I've since spoken with Tessa, and she was telling me that as a result of that program, that group has now been approached by a radio station in Dominica who want them to appear on their station as well and do something similar. She also pointed out that that program is being widely circulated globally. So yeah, we did hit on something there. Okay, my bro. By the way, I like your shade of green tonight.
Different shades of green. No one particular shade. And maybe I should lend this shirt to Mr. Clement when he comes on your program on Sunday. Yeah, different shades of green. Have a nice evening, George.
You too, Brian. You too. God bless you, my
Take
friend.
care.
All right. Always funny, man. Always hilarious. Mr. Brian Pitt. And just a reminder, that was recorded on Friday evening, as you could tell there from the time you saw up on your monitor. Now, folks, very briefly, I want you guys to take a look at the announcement that was made that we now have 3 more confirmed cases of COVID in this place. 3 more confirmed cases. The 3 people you're going to be hearing from here are the Health Minister, Nickolas Steele, the Acting Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Francis Martin, and the Coordinator of the COVID Response Team, Dr. George Mitchell.
So far, we have conducted a total of approximately 175 PCR tests and in excess of 1,000 rapid tests representing different sectors of the population. The first positive individual today is a female aged 50. She is an import-related case and is what is known as an asymptomatic carrier. She has displayed no symptoms today. The other two individuals are males ages 62 and 59. Those two individuals were found through contact tracing in the workplace of the 15th case that we confirmed on Wednesday. The medical team continues to aggressively pursue any and all contacts of these individuals. In the last week, they have concentrated their efforts on several areas, including the residential community of the 15th case and his workplace, which has become a focal point of the investigation. I must emphasize here that the company in question was asked to close its doors earlier this week, and workers have been contacted and instructed to self-isolate. In the past few days, 69 workers have been tested through both rapid test and PCR to ascertain the spread of the disease. While health officials have made tremendous progress with contact tracing for our recent positive cases, they are still yet to determine the original point of infection of the 3 workplace-related cases. This means that there are yet a likely link of the workplace cases to an imported or import-related case. This further suggests that the probability of community transmission of the disease. I cannot stress enough the importance in these times of staying vigilant and adhering strictly to the guidelines that we continue to plead with you to follow. These are not ordinary times, but unfortunately, many of us continue to act as if they are. There is no reason in this period why authorities should have to be called to break up social gatherings. There is no reason why people should congregate by rum shops during curfew hours or be out on the streets unnecessarily. These behaviors are highly selfish and they are putting all of us at risk. We are also noticing a trend through the contact tracing this week in which individuals are displaying symptoms but are not reporting it. You know who you are. Some of you might be sitting at home right now, or you might be out in your communities right now. And you know you have symptoms that are consistent with COVID-19, such as coughing, shortness of breath, fever, diarrhea, sore throat, and loss of your sense of smell and taste. This is rather irresponsible, and you are putting your families and communities at risk. You are endangering the lives of grandparents, siblings, parents, and colleagues. I know many of you continue to hold on to the belief that there is still no scientific data that states that the Caribbean sun will stop the spread of the disease. No, it won't. Rum won't stop it. Bush tea will not stop the spread. If you are exhibiting symptoms, or if you believe you have been exposed to the disease, you need to report it to the health officials immediately. Call, text, write, tell a friend, make the call. Do not leave your house. Stay at home. We cannot continue as we are. These careless behaviors must stop. we have been doing well, and we are on a decent trajectory to stomping out this disease on our shores. While we know that this virus is evolving, we anticipate that there will be pockets of it every now and then. For the foreseeable future, we cannot contend with the true community spread here in Grenada. The developed countries cannot handle it. So imagine what will happen here if suddenly all of our cases start exhibiting serious symptoms and begin to burden our healthcare system. Imagine the lives that will be in the balance then. Our medical team is doing its best, and I must commend them again. This includes St. George's University and our WinRef partnership response team that is conducting testing and assisting with contact tracing. The entire medical team is working around the clock, understanding the implications of not doing so. They are sacrificing their lives to save yours and mine. The least we can do in showing them gratitude is to not add to their daily anxieties or stress by engaging in behaviors that increase the spread of this deadly virus. They too have families to safeguard. I am begging you to please practice the measures designed to keep you safe. Wash your hands frequently. Do not touch your eyes, nose, and mouth with unclean hands. Exercise physical distancing. And please, please, please wear a mask or face covering over the nose and mouth when out in public. Remember, this virus is lurking right now in unsuspecting carriers who are not displaying any symptoms, but they may be spreading it as we speak. These are asymptomatic carriers, two of whom we previously found through contact tracing, and one we have announced today. To date, they still have no symptoms. This does not mean that they cannot transmit the disease to others. Be on your guard, people. This disease is not to be taken lightly. We have only to look to our brothers and sisters in New York and London, and we will understand the deadly nature of this disease. We cannot afford this here. So far, from official reports, we have lost approximately 75 to 80 Grenadians abroad in this battle, and the numbers continue to climb. Our hearts go out to them, and we urge those alive and healthy to continue to exercise due care and attention, just as we urge you to do here. We have heard traumatic stories from many who have been infected with this disease and managed to survive. Among those have been the young and the elderly, the athletic and the inactive. The disease is not differentiating between your strength or health and mine. It's coming after all of us, and we must be on our guard. In this period, now more than ever, we are called to a higher calling. We must continue to stand in the gap for each other. It is the only way to win this public health battle. I thank you, and may God bless us all.
All right, now, that was the Health Minister, Nickolas Steele, breaking the news about the 3 additional cases, 3 persons who have now been tested positive. Now, I did mention that you would also be hearing from the acting chief medical officer and the coordinator of the COVID response team. However, I've decided to forego that part of the briefing for the simple reason that much of what they said has already been said in the last few weeks. You know, we've had press conferences virtually every day, if not every day, then almost every day for the past several weeks, either from the police or the Ministry of Health or whomever. And so rather than just getting repetitive, I thought we should get on with our next segment here this morning. And just let me show you a very quick picture. We're not going to start our conversation yet, but I want you to take a look at this guy. Does anybody recognize that gentleman there? That, my dear friends, is your new opposition leader. Young man by the name of Tobias Clement. And we're going to be talking with him until about noon this morning. So hang him there. We're going to get to him in just a wee bit. I also want to make a quick visit back to social media. Trini says, no. Ryan, oh, they're talking COVID here. They're still talking COVID, so we're going to forego that. Oh, here is another face that has just shown up. This one is none other than Mr. Kellen Bubb. Kellen, you can smile. Go ahead, smile. Yeah, he's smiling and waving. Kellen is going to be joining us in this conversation. And we'll tell you why in just a wee bit. But first, let us take a little break, and then we'll come back.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Together with you, our customers, we energize our community.
Together with you, we energize our economy.
We are working together to give our nation a better tomorrow.
With you, we energize our future. Together, we energize our nation.
Thank you for partnering with us as we energize our Spice Island.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Conveniently located in the Grand Shopping Center, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair Grenada will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. The safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep.
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
Alrighty, folks, here we go. Let's say a very good morning, first of all, to Mr. Tobias Clement, and extend congratulations. Mr. Clement, who is sitting directly above me there on your screen. How are you, sir?
Let me say good morning to you, Mr. Grant, and good morning to our listeners, Renee and Nick on the white, all those from the media, and also to you, Mr. Bob. Good morning to you also, to you and your family.
Good morning, sir.
I hope that everyone is adhering to the protocol and keeping safe.
We are keeping safe, and yes, we are adhering to this protocol. Boy, I'll tell you, I never knew there were so many electronic hookups in this place. I've seen Zoom being used. We're not using Zoom here this morning, but I'm seeing Zoom being used so much by everybody. Kellen, good morning, and thank you very much for coming. Let me explain why Kellen is here. Last couple of Saturdays ago, there was a very brief press conference at which both Kellen and I had an opportunity to ask some questions of Mr. Clement. But we quickly ran out of time, and I decided, let me try and get him on here so we would have a little bit more time. Right now, as it stands, we have about an hour and 20 minutes. And Kellen was invited and promptly agreed to join us this morning, so here he is. Kellen, are you gonna serve up the first volley?
Yes, thank you so much, George, for inviting me this morning. I think it's important for us to be having these conversations in the spirit of accountability, but also in the spirit of the fourth estate, and ensuring that the fourth estate does what the fourth estate should do. And whatever I can do to continue to advance that cause is what I would do as a freelance reporter in the diaspora. And so my first question to you, Mr. Clement, and of course I didn't get the time to ask you that at the press conference that you hosted, which goes to a question that George also asked, and that has to do with timing, right? And we know that, and I know I keep pressing you on this, but we knew that a pandemic was coming, right? And then we knew that these things were put in place. So I'm trying to understand why, given the fact that you did demit your role within the NNP, I believe 5 months ago, as you said before, that we were doing it now. And I get the context that, we are in this global emergency, this global pandemic, but I think, folks would be sort of wary of that timing. Your thoughts?
Well, I think I was very clear on answering this question many times. Many times, I do believe that it was said that maybe I should have consulted, and they would have maybe I should come earlier or come after. But just simple truth, it is the right time to practice democracy. I mentioned before that just about immediately after I said that the timing was not right, I said to, I got an email from someone who said, what would Jesus Christ do? Would he say, I will attend to you after the rain is over and it is well? Our country, for the last 7 years, it was without an opposition. You leave mankind to his own devices, and every time it comes to destruction. We run a country without an opposition, and I can question where is the checks and balances. But even in the time of COVID-19, you see what is going to take place there, or what would have gone on. I'm sitting on the sidelines, and I said to people that people expected me to move immediately after I resigned from the New National Party on the 20th of November. But I rather go slow and get it right than to move quickly and make mistakes. But here is the point. Since November 22nd, came from Parliament just until last Friday. So it was almost 5 months transpired. During the press conference, the leadership announced that he has a stimulus package of million. You're looking at this, and even now, in the face of much responsibility that are placed on government and public workers, there was no one to ask a question, no checks and balances, not even in Parliament. But isn't this a time that I should come on and ask the relevant question, hold a feet to the fire? And generally, I do believe Grenadians, our people in Grenada, they were looking for to create a sense of transparency, a sense of accountability, a sense that someone would say, hold a minute, wait a minute, put the brakes on something, or let it be open. I mean, yes, you have a government that is operating now where they were up all branches of government, and you cannot question, you cannot object, you cannot, and this is not me in that, for instance, I would ask the difficult question. Like I said, I do not have to be right all the time. I will not be right all the time, but at least I will speak truth to power. And even now during COVID-19, speaking truth to power is relevant. I can ask the question, as the government move forward with COVID-19, are they getting it right all the time? Who is to question what decisions are made? But even in the midst of COVID-19, it must be questioned. I've heard it at this point, they are trying lives. Everybody. This is not only a great thing, but it is a worldwide thing. And people are dying. In diaspora, well, God forbid, we did not have any here in Grenada as yet, but our families everywhere, they're hurt. But even in the midst of tragedy, this pandemic, is democracy relevant? Is the life of democracy in Grenada relevant or anywhere in the world? And I said, I have known men, our forefathers, who have fought and died for democracy. And that too is very relevant now. To have the separation of powers working as it should be, to have our government working as it should be, we cannot choose timing for it. I mean, I asked the question, when would have been the right time? When it is all over? And when I come on, Mr. Grant might ask me, but Mr. Clement, where are you coming from now? When we needed a voice during the time of crisis, you did not show your face. Should I wait until August or September or a year and a half, or next month, if it's over by then, to come on, to be relevant? No, I think now is the time when, and the good thing about it now, every issue that I raise, every objection I make, every point that I bring across, people are listening. The viewership, the listenership of the social media, of everything now is up because people are home, they're quarantined, and they're paying attention. So everything that we say now is very relevant. So that is my take on this.
All right. First of all, did he respond to your question, Clement?
I thought that was satisfactory, but again, at the end of the day, I think your motivations, as with any politician, at the end of the day, you're a politician, right? But you're also a public servant. You represent your constituents. And so I think one of the reasons I brought this question up was because, a lot of folks will have expressed surprise that perhaps folks in the constituency didn't know that we were crossing the floor or something to that effect. But again, I thought that the response was satisfactory.
All right, just let me throw something in here. And by the way, Mr. Clement, Tobias, please. We have a lot of questions for you, a whole lot of questions, because once I started talking about the fact that you were going to be on here, number of people started either emailing or WhatsApping their questions. So we're going to keep you busy for the next little while. Just let me say this. One of the reasons why you're sitting where you are right now is because, quite frankly, I don't know if to envy you in that position or not envy you. You're in an awkward situation where a lot is going to be demanded of you, okay? A lot is going to be demanded of you. And I think what people are trying to see is whether or not those demands are going to be met. We have a situation in this country where parliamentarians seem to be confined to supporting the party they represent and not really taking a stance based on morality or whatever. I have seen you stand up in Parliament, even though you were a member of the New National Party. I have seen you stand up in Parliament and raise hell because you're one of those people prepared to stand up for something you believe. Whereas the others in Parliament sit there going, you know, like a bunch of robots. They don't have the goal to say, hey, listen, I don't agree with that. And I refuse to believe that these parliamentarians agree with everything that's put before them. I really refuse to believe that. Mr. Clement, people have been watching you. And now they want to know whether or not you're going to deliver, sir. You have indicated that you have the potential. But it's going to put you on the firing line. Are you prepared? Are you really ready to face the music, sir?
Mr. Grant, I have been facing the music long before now. As you say that I did a lot of some publicly, some privately, of the way things are and the way things grow, and what I believe in my heart that how democracy, how governance should work for our people. And maybe it has put me on the hot seat a long time. And I beg to say that that has not changed my perspective. What you see is what you get, and that is what you have been getting. I emphasize how I was raised in that you have to stand for principle. Let your yes be yes and your nay be nay. In my little education too, I understand that it is fundamental that whosoever you are, you must speak truth to power. And not only the truth that the power may want to hear, but the truth that probably may not be as likened to the power that be, but you must speak truth to power. And when this happens, you would have fulfilled your role as a human being, as a man. I mean, I put it this way: how can you stand up and say that you're a man or woman when you refuse or you just would not speak your mind or speak objectively or speak truthfully to the people that is a wronging? Then I think you would not have done your duties towards the country or towards your children and towards people who are looking to you as even sometimes as a role model. Remember, we sit where we are and people are looking at us. And they make judgment about us from what we do and what we say. And I believe that we and as role models too, we should set an example of the standards that we should live by in our country and the principles that we stand for. And this is where I am, Mr. Grant, and I have not wavered from this. And I pray to God that I say that He that is able to keep me from falling and to keep my head on the straight and narrow. We do not always get it right. But I pray that I am not in this by myself. And I spoke to the three branches of government, and I should also speak to the fourth estate, which is Mr. Bob and you yourself, Mr. Grant, that the media would have a very important role to play in the development of our country and in the development of democracy. There will not be a real functioning democracy in any country if the media do not raise the relevant question or if the media remain silent. Just as MPs, if MPs remain silent when they see blatant disregards to people's democracy or democratic right, and the media practice the same, then we're all in the same boat. So it's not just me, but it is Mr. Bob, with Mr. Grant, and all the workers of the media have to get on board and speak up when it's time to speak, ask the relevant questions, and hold people accountable for the mishap, that is what they do right or what they do not do right. And this is what I do.
Absolutely, Mr. Clement, absolutely. Hold people accountable, ask the appropriate questions. I couldn't agree with you more, sir. And that's the reason why you're sitting where you are right now with Kellen and myself. But sir, look, I have a tendency to say what's on my mind, regardless of the consequences. Regardless of the consequence. Yeah. There's some people in the media now who are going to be really ticked off at what I have to say. But there are people in the media who they have an obsession with looking for everything that is wrong with someone. Bring him down. Go get him, give him. I don't believe in that, sir. I really don't. And I find that too many people in our media have that obsession. You know, I have spoken about the fact that I have seen your performance in Parliament. That's what I want to remember, sir. I want to remember there's a guy who had the guts to stand up in Parliament and say, hey, that's wrong. I don't agree with it. Okay? Rather than somebody who wants to look for everything that Tobias Clement has done wrong. Who don't like it? Too bad. If I have to call names, I will. Okay? You know me. You know me. I have to call names. Okay? But Mr. Clement, that's the point. I'm saying all of that to say that I agree with you. Yes, you're going to be asked some tough questions here this morning, sir. You are. And that's the way it should be.
That is the way it should be. And, you know, I too alluded to the same principle that you hold. Because, for instance, I resigned from the New National Party on November 2019. And since then, I have had a lot of telephone calls, a lot of interviews. I spoke to a lot of people. And yes, it is true that I also, the Constitution says that I would advise the Governor General on the choice of 3 senators. And I'm looking, and I was approached, I get calls, I approached some people, but I also told a lot of them that I do not want people axe to grind with the leadership of the country. We've been there, we've done that so many times. But if we move forward, and we move forward in terms of where Grenada, Caricon, Martinique is, what we should put first is the development of our country. And like you say, let's bring him down, and he'll go all out to get the Prime Minister for whatever reason. That is not my concern. My concern is the future of this country, the future of my child, the future of your child, the future that we could take Grenada to a different level rather than the status quo that it has never worked. And then what gain is there in bringing down your brother? Sometimes we have to learn to just let it be and let God handle that. And you move on with the country's business. And that is where I am today.
All right. Kellen, I have a list. I'm sure you got your own list. But I'm going to be a gentleman and let you go first. You got any more?
Yeah, Mr. Clement, as you're aware, we are currently experiencing and will continue to experience a very difficult socioeconomic period because of this global pandemic. And so the other question I had really has to do with your thoughts with respect to the government stimulus. Do you think that the stimulus package that was passed as a stopgap measure is sufficient? Is it sustainable? Does it go far enough? If it doesn't go far enough, why not? And if you were in the Prime Minister's seat, how would you approach this particular international public health crisis different?
That's a loud question with a broad scope right there. But I would take it. I would have to divide it up. The stimulus package. Am I in agreement with it? Is it enough? Is it sustainable? And I look at the other countries. The United States passed a stimulus package, $2.25 trillion. Germany did one with 780 billion euros. Just recently, the European Union also did. Almost every country in the world went in that direction. I have no problem with that. What I would like to see, like in the United States, I see that the government probably looking at the unemployment situation and cut everybody that is under unemployment benefit, maybe $1,200 or so, of going in that direction. There are some things that I'm looking at in that the $50 million that was passed in Grenada. One of the things that I said, I would like to see how that money is being spent. Who gets what and how much they get? Is there a ceiling? I read something in the papers the other day that just off the bat, we say, okay, we're going to give everybody a 30% cut in electricity bill. Now, Mr. Bob, suppose your electricity bill every month is $60. I read that in the newspaper. At a 30%, you might get around $20 cut in your electricity bill. Now, Mr. Grant's electricity bill is $1,200 a month. Mr. Grant will get a $400 cut in his electricity bill. The question I ask, is that fair across the board for 30% to electricity bill? We have to create a formula that says that let us look and see how we can help people to get over this hump. Because one thing I can say, $50 million now, but we do not know how long this state of emergency would be in place. We do not know how long COVID-19 will be around. Is it sustainable for 3 months, for 6 months until the end of the year? This is what we do not know. Even in terms of government revenue, at this point in time, I will not fault government for the lack in terms of collection of revenue or where it is. I mean, we have had an economy that was based a lot on tourism, 25% of it, St. George's University. And do we have control over St. George's University at this time, the time of COVID-19? No. Do we have control over tourism? No. Are they coming back anytime soon? St. George's University, perhaps. Tourism, maybe not, because now tourists travel, go on cruises, and come on vacation when they do have disposable income. Now, a lot of these people are affected and affected dramatically. Would they come back here to Grenada in mass again in October or November when the tourist season starts? And I must say to you to look at the trend in terms of the amount of people worldwide who passed away. The United States now is over 50 million. Most of them are senior citizens. The world is like 200,000. In terms of the amount getting it is 2.5 million and counting. And a lot of the tourists, even those that go to Las Vegas casino on the cruise, are senior citizens.
All right. Hold on for a minute.
With us no more.
Hold on for a minute. Mr. Clement, hold on. You said 50 million deaths. I think you meant 50,000 deaths. 54,000 deaths. Okay.
In the United States, yes.
Okay, right. And essentially you're saying the only deterrent from more tourists coming here, it's not going to be just because Grenada is tainted because of the virus. You're saying these people just don't have the disposable resources in the source markets, right?
Where are they going to get it after all? Some people come to vacation and so because the children perhaps might have sent them. Or, they have that disposable income. But it's something that we have to look at. The $50 million, I say probably that is just, I said in Parliament, that is just a drop in the bucket. because our people are hurting. And I mean, I get calls every day concerning, just helping people. And how far can government go? Government may not be able to help everybody. But this should be, if nothing else, a wake-up call as how we do business in this country, how people live in this country, what we put as important national pillars of development in this country. I have seen, look, I spoke to agriculture especially. Some countries were able to boost export during this time. St. Vincent, Jamaica. Here in Grenada, because of the lockdown, we went to zero. I spoke in Parliament to our soursop farmers that at the peak of the season, when they were shipping out 40,000 pounds of soursop per week, now it's down to zero. Everything, acres and acres, ripe and fall. The tuna fishing industry, that went down to zero. But again, now that this is going on, we see a lot of our people going back to the land and start planting something again. So that food security is paramount. And
That's
if
good.
we can use time to reflect on what we have done and where we go from here, I say, Mr. Grant, regardless of what stimulus package there is and what government do, we cannot go back to business as usual.
You know, sir, I think one of the nice things that's going to come out of this whole episode with the coronavirus is that you're going to see less of what I refer to as the dependency syndrome. Politicians have this nasty habit of sort of convincing the public that they're always there for them. They can give, they will give, they will give, they will give. And so people have grown to be just overly dependent. But I'm hearing now that people are actually starting to turn back to agriculture, sir. Does that make you feel good?
It does. It does, because it's something that I have been advocating for a long time. I myself am a small farmer, nothing big, but I make it work for me. And I was able, even during this time, to help a lot of people to get up and running and to give them pointers as to the direction to go in terms of agriculture. Because now, as you know, even in this time of crisis, we cannot equate it to Ivan. During the time of Ivan, it was almost Grenada alone. Now, all countries find themselves in the same position. Are we going to get big grants and free money? No. I mean, yes, there is going to they will, and they may give us some, but at probably very, very low interest, but it will have to be paid back. And even now, as we are strapped for cash in terms of revenue, and I would urge again our people to be very understanding as to the position of the government. And I will call a spade. Maybe for the last 7 or more years, that the government never falter on paying salaries, on meeting the public wage bill and meeting the expenses. But for this month, next month, I see a lot of problems there, because the revenue that would have been collected under normal circumstances will not. And whatever measures government have to take to support the wage bill, I will support there, because, as I said, it was almost in that direction for the last seven years. So let's see how it will work out. Again, Mr. Bob, I can tell you the stimulus package, yes. How long? Is it sustainable? It depends on how long COVID-19 comes around, and I hasten to say that maybe we're just scratching the surface here in Grenada in terms of COVID-19. We're not being fully as...
Mr. Clement, and this is, I'm glad you made that point with respect to sustainability, because in neighboring Trinidad and Tobago, the Prime Minister was able to put together sort of a multi-party COVID committee. One of the members on the committee, he is an economist with the University of West Indies. And, he was suggesting that there has to be a fundamental rethink with respect to how we configure, or how our economies are configured. And part of what he said was that we have become too heavily reliant on imports, right? That we have become so import heavy. And one of the things he observed was that things that we need, basic items that we need in our society, right, are imported. And he was able to give a list, right, of different things that he said could actually be produced at home, right? Now, to the extent that we're thinking with sort of a bigger picture, as opposed to just these stopgap measures, is something that I think people are also concerned about, because there has to be as you said, every man to himself right now. But how do we also become sort of not too overly dependent on imports, especially from the United States? Because there is a lot of anecdotal evidence which suggested, for example, that ventilators that were meant for certain destinations were seized, right? And we were not able to get those into the Caribbean. So I think the point I'm trying to make is, how do we then have a serious rethink with respect to the way that we're currently doing business?
Well, I would say there we should follow two tracks in going forward. There must be a short-term measure, and there must be a long-term measure in terms of the way forward for development of our country. Short-term for the next couple of months or so, because we, like you spoke of ventilators, we just can't wake up in the morning and start producing some of the things that are needed here, even the simple things. But in terms of making ourselves self-sufficient, even in terms of agriculture, these two will have to be short-term, long-term. And the future development of our country, we have to put that structure in place. We must put that structure in place. Let us sit down and have a long-term strategy for the development of our country, so that when conditions like this come, states of emergency, and we do not know where it will come from. This time it came from COVID-19. It can come from an earthquake, it can come from a hurricane, it can natural disaster, or it can come from man-made. But do we go back to the same way as how we did then? We would not have learned a single thing from even the state of emergency. And there are so many things that we need consensus on, we need to consult, and we need to bring in our people, not just a few, but bring in everybody from all walks of life to have the 2 cents and to develop a strategy for moving this country forward.
All right, Mr. Clement, one of the key features of these programs is getting the input of people out there in social media. I'm sure that Mr. Bub will tell you that. And there are a few comments out there. I've just been able to pull out 3. Let me start here. Somebody named Floyd Bishop is asking, how effective is he going to be as an opposition leader when he is unsure of taking up the job full-time while still continuing his job at the SGU? How effective is he going to be as an opposition leader when he is unsure of taking up the job? Hold on. He says, I wish you the very best. However, I'll be watching carefully to see what you do. I will judge you by your actions. Dexter Miller says, this is not about bring down your brother, but if it happens in the process, so be it. Asking the hard questions and ensuring that the powers that be repay for the mismanagement of our resources. Dexter, you might want to become obsessed with some of the mismanagement that's been going on in this country, sir. Try putting your attention there. Margaret Rollo says, Mr. Clement, I just want to say it matters not when you made your move, but you did it. All you can do is your best, and the rest is up to God. Cheers to you. Let me hear you, sir.
Well, towards the first two gentlemen that commented, both names I know both names very well. Mr. Bishop and I, we were in primary school and high school for a time together. That is in Carriacou. I had never discussed with Mr. Bishop my position at St. George's University in terms of part-time or full-time. I will do what I have to do to do the best for this position. And I do believe Mr. Grant and the other people in the media would hold me accountable to. The people would hold me accountable for being in this position. We have seen it, and I have seen it. Look, for instance, I go back to history. I studied history a little bit, not all of it, but some of it. There was a case in the United States with President Nixon. And President Nixon, I think they said, probably remember the debacle that had him leave office even before his time. And President Ford went on to just forgive the man and let it go. And I think this is a big debate now as to how do you pursue wrongdoings or some of the inconsistency. In pursuing it, yes, you might look to destroy somebody, but sometimes too, you could destroy the very country which you aims to protect. People should be responsible, people should be held accountable, but should it be the focus of countries' development? I say no. Sometimes there are corruption and people go down that road. Do you think sometimes they want to, but they're put in such a position by even the situation around them that would cause them to fall away? We are not perfect people. And if you look into government, you'll find a lot of imperfections there. It's the first place you might find it in Grenada. But would you be obsessed, as Mr. Grant said, going down that direction? I think we have more important things to think about in this country. My important thing is, how do we take this country from here now and make something better and greater out of it from where we are? If in the process wrongdoing is found, then let justice handle it. Sometimes we have to let the justice system work. Because again, Mr. Grant, we have the three branches of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. And if we control everything, then it cannot work as it should work in terms of checks and balances. So
Mr. Clement,
Yes,
Clement, Mr. Clement,
yes, sir.
I hear
Yes,
you
sir.
about let justice do its work. You know, sir, I trust that you've been living in Grenada for quite a while, just as I have been, and I'm sure you're very much aware that in this country today, justice at the level of governance is sometimes virtually non-existent. There's a lot of injustice going on in this country today, sir. Let's not ignore that.
No, we should not. I mean, and I will not ignore it in that, for instance, where justice lies, in the chambers of justice, I can ask the question again: what protocol do we follow? Yes, we have a lot of institutions under the arm of justice, but are they operating the way that they should operate to hold everybody responsible?
Thank you.
I say that we behave in such a way that we think that leadership, politicians, ministers, or whosoever it might be, is above the law. And I would remind our people that no one in Grenada is above the law.
Thank you, sir.
And okay, thank you there.
All right. I want to read 4 more comments before we really get back into the questions, because there are some nice questions there waiting for you. Tana Phillips says, Mr. C, seeing you now in the position of choosing 3 senators to Parliament, would you consider having Mr. Burke, seeing he is experienced, a great debater, and a great team player in Parliament? What say you?
He's also from Caracou. Let us add that.
Kellen. Yes, sir.
You know, I could start a debate in this country in terms of the choice of senators. I have had a lot of discussions with a lot of people, Mr. Grant, and I have not had any discussions with Mr. Mr. Burke. I have had discussions with people, and generally, a lot of our people are looking for something new, something fresh, something that not the same status quo. In my lifetime, I have known Mr. Buck. Maybe I might have said hello to him a few times, but have we had any conversation? No. Sometimes I ran against Mr. Buck in 2013 and 2018, and I find that he is a technocrat. Deep politician? No. And I would hasten to say, Mr. Grant, I look at the stage of politics in the world. I ran twice against Mr. Buck, and I won twice against Mr. Buck. I did not even get a complimentary telephone call or congratulatory call from Mr. I did not even have a conversation with Mr. Buck on both occasions as to say, well, Mr. Clement, I hope that you do the best for St. George Norton. We have never had that conversation. I think all other MPs, whosoever they ran against, got a call or talked to who they ran against, but I never received that call up to now from Mr. Burke.
Well, you know, that's very interesting, sir, because he was on this program, I think a week ago. Was it a week ago, Kellen? Hello? I think we lost Kellen.
Well, he was on your program last week.
Right, last week.
Yeah.
And he was asked, you know, whether he'd be willing to work with you. And I don't want to use the term reaching out, but I got the feeling that he is very interested in serving. So I was just curious as to whether or not you two may have had a little tete-a-tete.
We did not. We did not. And I look at it and I would not want to go down that road, but I believe I am almost forced to go down that road. That I look at the situation that happened for the last 7 years, and probably Mr. Buck was the lightning rod that galvanized the whole system of people behind NNP. I do not think it is wise for me to even to go down that road again, so that deep level of commitment to one political party because of that gentleman and the sentiment that was expressed. He probably is one of the persons that maybe that people would look to galvanize support where support is not needed at this point in time, in terms of behind the political leadership of the new national party. I do not think I would give some people the justification which they're looking for in such an appointment. And again, Mr. Grant, with all respect to some of our viewers, I'm looking and I'm listening to the Grenadian public. And in a lot of the cases, people want a new brand of politics in Grenada. They are looking for someone and people who would come forward that put country's development first and foremost, instead of say personality and personal development. But let us take Grenada on a road to real and lasting development, and this is what I am. This is what I am saying.
All right.
I am. They say in politics makes strange bedfellows, and I see now that it really is so, because when we look at some of the association that is now, you would wonder, maybe a few years ago you would bet your last dollar that would happen. Well, it is always open. It is always, I have to be objective too. And we have to do a lot of calculations in this whole affair of politics.
All right, next question. Toby, let's see here. Ryan Jaban says, Ryan, by the way, is in Orlando, Florida. He says, Toby, you are a refreshing breath of fresh air. Welcome. I agree with you that Grenada now needs a broad spectrum of ideas to plot the way forward and not an exclusive dictatorship. Dexter Miller says, Tobias, we're already seeing how the 500 million, where the 50 million will be spent dishing out food baskets for political gains. Ryan says, Toby, I love your perspective of short-term goals and long-term goals for development of Grenada. You have my support. Okay. Sir, one of the things that's been an issue is the fact that you have supposedly been receiving a salary outside of your MP's salary. And I want to prelude this segment by asking the question, is your parliamentary position a full-time position? Hello?
Yes, I am here. And let me go back to a few of the comments, and I will say that
okay.
Somebody said about they've seen where the $50 million is going in terms of food basket. I did not see that in the budget, in the stimulus debate last Friday. I think it was broken down into different segments, and food basket for people was not part of it. I myself came on and partnered with few people in St. George's Northeast, and we were able to give food baskets to a few people that are down and out. It was not part of the stimulus package, so I cannot support that comment. In terms of the MP's position, you are elected MPs in the Parliament of Grenada. You serve at the pleasure of the Prime Minister if you serve in the executive of our country. The MP's position, you ask if it is full-time. It is full-time in terms of the stipend that is given to an MP without portfolio. It is registered at $1,272 per month, and that is where it is. You made mention that I receive salary. The salary that I received in terms of working in St. George's Northeast, I did not pay myself. I came into government, and that is what was given to me, and that is what was there. And some people are done as if I paid myself or if I had anything to do with it.
Is that the $6,000 you were getting between 2013 and 2018?
I think this is what they are referring to. Not 6,000, 5,000 something, 5,200 thereabout. But I did not pay myself.
And what was that for?
The Prime Minister of the country gave all members of Parliament that money. I'm not the only one who received it, and I did not pay myself. I mean, would they fault me for receiving something that I did not do for myself?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Grant, and this goes to the important issue that I spoke about before, that the Minister of Finance, the Prime Minister, have it in its power whether he wants to cut the minister's salary or not cut the minister's salary. He make that full determination. I did not make it.
All right.
So, Mr. Clement, help me to understand this. The constituency allowance that you get for your constituency, because I know that has been an issue, right? You said that, I'm just trying to understand sort of the funding mechanism.
Let me correct you, Mr. Bob. No
Yes.
MP ever received constituency allowance. I have never received any constituency allowance. No MP does. I think that it was a story that was out there that MPs receive constituency allowance. They don't. The only stipend that MP receive as an MP for the constituency is $1,272 per month. That's it.
And that is coming from the consolidated fund, or is it coming from the cabinet? Where is that coming from? Or is it a parliamentary allowance?
All monies that are spent comes from the consolidated fund.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for that up. I was confused about that.
Is there any law prohibiting a parliamentarian from holding other employment?
No, there ain't no law prohibiting parliamentarians from holding other employment. Take for instance, Mr. Grant. I am an MP without a portfolio, and the stipend I receive is $1,200, and I have to operate without no other position, or I cannot hold any other job. Mr. Grant, well, you do the math for yourself. I have a family, I have a mortgage, I have a life, and $1,200 a month, and everything else. And you have to understand too that you go to the constituency a few times during the week, almost full time once every week, and the demand on you as the MP for it goes far beyond what government gives you, and that is probably how I was able to survive there, because it's not any walk in the park, and I think this is where people miss the boat and misunderstand what MPs are given, and what is demanded of them, and that is the truth, Mr. There ain't no law, and at remuneration at that level, then nobody would want to be representing the constituency, because at the end of the day, you would have to at least really make up your mind as to what you want to do. You know, I always say that in other jurisdictions around the world, you expect the best and the brightest to come forward and serve. But I also believe that you should also pay the best and the brightest to serve, because bottom line, I read a report from one study that was done by the United Nations, and they were studying some of the parliament around, and usually they say a country, in terms of the remuneration package and the level of corruption, that could be closely associated to each other. So I say this because just for what it is worth, I mean, here you have this at that rate, and you expect so much from your MP, as to say that, okay, you're MP without portfolio, and that is the only thing that you should do. I say, Mr. Grant, we got to think again in this country.
All right, here's another question for you, sir. Tana Phillips says, Mr. C, did you have any talks with the NDC's leadership, seeing that they represent 41% of the population and received 23,000 votes? Did you? I've been hearing that there were talks between you and the NDC.
Well, recently, before last Thursday, I've had a few conversations, not at any upper echelons of the party. I did have a conversation with a number of them on Thursday that they wanted to talk with me. I sat and I listened, and we had some discussions on what should I say, on some of the proposal that they were asking, and I listened, and I made a decision as to what I have decided to do in that conversation. It was a cordial conversation, and I was more ears than talking. Yes, I did speak with the leadership of the National Democratic Congress. Well, the political leader of the party did not meet because she had another very pressing engagement. But last Thursday, I did have had a conversation with them where I sat and listened to what they had to say, and that is as much as I got with them.
But you do. Let me just. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Did
but
you
can
initially?
appreciate,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You can appreciate the fact that they do represent 40% of the population, and so I think the point is, would you really consider at least having NDC representation in the Senate moving forward?
Well, I would again take you to the Constitution. Constitution of our country did not tell me to do so. The Constitution of the country says the leader of the opposition shall advise the Governor General on the appointment of the 3 senators there. He never said that I should consult with any other party or consult with any other people or advise any other people outside of the Governor General, and I would follow the Constitution on that. Yes, I do recognize that the National Democratic Congress do have the following, and we will move on from there. But what is given to me by the Constitution, that is what I will accept and move forward with that.
Cullen?
No, that's good. That was a satisfactory answer.
All right. I'll tell you what, gentlemen, please allow me to take a quick little break here, and we shall return with Mr. Tobias Clement and Mr. Cullen Bob.
A hero is someone who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. Indeed, our heroes walk amongst us, and they have been working around the clock during this COVID-19 pandemic to keep Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique safe. To all our essential and frontline workers, the Ministry of Tourism and Civil Aviation and the Grenada Tourism Authority salute you and thank you for your sacrifice and service. May God continue to bless you and your family.
Today I'm going to show you how to do a homemade mask, since it's now being suggested that when people go out into the public, they use a mask. Now I know that it's very tough to come by masks, so I'm going to show you how to make a homemade mask. First of all, this is fairly easy and this can be washed every day. Just get a piece of material. In this case I've used a scarf, and fold it in half like this, and then fold it in half again. And then what you do is you would need 2 rubber bands like this, and you put these rubber bands in on either end like so, and then take the rest of the material and fold it to the middle like this, and you have a mask that you can use when you go out like this. Very simple, and this can be used to go out to ensure that droplets don't get to you and to discourage you from actually touching your face. In the meantime, I ask that you wash your hands frequently, don't touch your face, use hand sanitizers when you can, try not to eat in public without eating utensils, and when you can, wear a mask out, which can be made at home, as I showed you. Thank you very much.
COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy. To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal. When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
Alrighty, folks, I am back with my guest, Mr. Tobias Clement, and Mr. Kellen Bubb out there in the big. Is that where you are in New York?
Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C.
Oh, he's in Washington. He's with Trump. He's with Trump.
Yeah. That's my neighbor. I'm avoiding him.
That's your virus, eh?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Andrea Mitchell is asking a question here. She says, whoa, read the salary. He didn't pay himself. He simply received it, knowing full well he was being paid for a job he wasn't doing. And to say that with such calm speaks volumes. Let me hear you, Mr. Clement.
Well, Mr. Grant, I am done with the salary issue for what it is. Like I said, that was not my doing. The Prime Minister has it in his powers to dictate the salary as is to any member of Parliament, to any MP, to any minister, and that was done. And it cannot be pinned on me as if that is it was my doing. It was not my doing. So that's of what I say. Some people would use it as is.
Yeah.
You know what I would say in the future going forward. Let us be fair with all members of Parliament, all ministers, and everybody within the government ambit as to what it is that should happen, and let the law take its course.
All right. Question from Theo Richards. What was the reason you were not given the ministerial position? Wasn't it because you were gainfully employed elsewhere?
I do not think so. The ministerial position, that is at the pleasure of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister determines whether or not anybody gets a position. I mean, if I was given the ministerial position, it is, well, any time that you're appointed by the Prime Minister, I have never heard a case where you refuse such appointment. But you always serve at the pleasure of the Prime Minister, and that is how it has always been, and I think that is how it will be. So it is not the MP that makes a determination as to serve in the executive.
All right, sir, we only have about 10 minutes left. Let me ask you this. You know, you have quite an audience out there this morning, and there are people who are sort of pinning their hopes on this young whippersnapper, Tobias Clement. I want you to talk to the people. Look into your camera and talk to the people and assure them that your participation in this country's parliament will reflect a difference. It's not going to be business as usual.
And it is not business as usual, Mr. Grant, because I tell people I did not just started in the politics yesterday. I believe I said before I sat at the feet of Mr. Blaze, and I considered him to be a man of principle. So since from the late 70s, early 80s, I have been close and around. And again, you go back to the principles on which you were raised. And regardless of who you are, what was inbred within you as you develop, that is what would disseminate as you grow older. I mean, the direction that you follow and how your family structure was or is, that is what you will learn. And I have learned to respect for people. I have learned to speak the truth and speak it ever, cost it what it will. I have learned to be bold and say it as I see it. And I have learned to, in terms of having the love for people, in terms of having the love for development. Because when you come from where I came from, real grassroots, and you were able, under guidance, to follow those principles and those precepts, that is what will come from you. And I pray God that I do not stray, because there are sometimes in life, and we have the tendency as situation changes, we stray from the principle where we were taught and where we were learned. In my development, even my first forte in politics, I rubbed shoulders with a lot of people. I think I said Mr. Blaze, Mr. Winston Fleury, Michael Caesar, Elvin Nimrod, Nickolas Bradford, Joan Prosser. And the first time I ran in 1995, I ran against Elvin Nimrod, Joan Prosser, Lyle Bullen, Winston Fleury, Michael Caesar. And I was young, tender, but I held my own, although I came under a lot of fire. But I stood the position that after Dr. Mitchell took over the party from Mr. Blaze, I think Carriacou people did not look on NMP that favorable on Dr. Mitchell, but I felt that he won the leadership of the party in the convention, and he should rightly be the leader of the party. And so this is where me and my family started the support. And that is the principle I see. If he won, then he won. And it should not be different. And even now, like Mr. Grant, you have said that you have looked at me in the parliament of our country, and even openly and privately sometimes I have had the occasions where I speak truth to power. Sometimes it's maybe not the most favorable thing, but that is what I will do. And the other people who are around me, who will look at Grenada and not at an individual. Grenada in terms of putting it on a different path to development, on a different path to prosperity. I mentioned that I learned from my grandmother that the first time I ever heard the word grassroots and third world was from her referring to our little country. And we could almost, in the same vein from the 1970s as a child to now, say the same thing of our country. I look at Grenada for the last few years, 70s, 80s, 90s, now, as to where we are and where we were and what we have become. And I ask, can we get more from Grenada? Can we get more from its people? Can we change the status quo to bring something different, to bring something more to Grenada? And that is what I'm looking for.
Well, you have an opportunity to do that now, sir. And just before I give Kellen the parting shot, let me say this to you. I just want to remind you, you know, that everything you have said here this morning is recorded, and something politicians don't take into consideration is that, you know, there's a record of everything that they. Pardon me?
There's always a paper trail.
There's a paper trail. You know, a lot of what. Hold on a minute, Toby. A lot of what you said here this morning, I mean, it sounds like music to the ears. Yes, there are things you've said which I'm sure have agitated a lot of people as well. So be it. Because, you know, a lot of the people out there who are firing off tough questions at you, I would love to hear them respond if they had to sit in the hot seat and answer some of the questions that they're shooting at you. I would really like to see and hear their responses. But the bottom line is, sir, today everything has been recorded, and it's going to be around for an eternity.
That's right.
Grenada is going to judge you by your words, sir. You have made them some great promises, and they are going to hold you accountable. I mean, look at this morning. I mean, I'm sure some of the questions you were asked this morning, you're probably saying, oh boy, I wish they didn't ask that. Maybe not. Maybe you had no objection. But there are tough questions that are going to be asked. And I have no difficulty with that. Okay? As long as they're not malicious. And you and I know that there's a lot of that crap out there. A lot of people just ask or say things just to be malicious. Kellen, you got the last few minutes, my friend. Fire.
Yeah. And you know, Mr. Clement, MP Clement, one of the things that you said that you know you would have had issues with Dr. Mitchell, right? As one of the motivating factors for your decision. Now, you would have worked with the Prime Minister for as long as you did. I believe your first foray into politics was in 1995, right? And you would have been part of the NFP leading up to that period. And you mentioned the place. Now, my question to you is, many folks would probably argue that Dr. Mitchell hasn't changed a lot since that period of time. So my question to you now is, what would have changed now as opposed to 2 years ago? Let me finish the question, please. 3 years ago, 1995, 1999, when you won 15 seats the first time, what would have changed? And perhaps you were not in the politics then, but you were still active with the NNP. What would have changed to sort of affect that kind of relationship?
Well, I think some of the things that you just said, that people are saying that he has not changed. But young Dr. Mitchell in 1995, that is what, 25 years ago, to now, I think he's a different individual. Things that I see that would be allowed now is not, he would not have allowed that even when he was opposition leader or even a few years ago. The thing about it too, I have seen a lot of changes. And as association, and a lot of association that he has made over the years have changed. I mean, when I just started, we were talking about people like Grace Duncan, Mac Isaac, Dewsbury, Raphael Fletcher, Lorena Waldron, and Jocelyn Whiteman, and I have seen so many of them just come and go. People ask me, well, how did I last that long? And usually I have a quiet disposition, but yet I am bold when the time comes. But I have seen a lot of change. And probably one of the things that I've seen that took place in 2018 is when the vote for the parliamentary offices were moved from under Parliament and placed under the Prime Minister's ministry, as towards the Prime Minister now wants to determine the makeup of the constituency office and take that MP's power. I mean, the constituency office and the constituency is the MP, and I strongly believe, and I still hold that firm, that constituency office, the vote for the constituency office and the operations of the constituency office in every constituency should be under Parliament and not under the Prime Minister's ministry, so that they would want to determine what staff you have or whose staff you should have in your constituency. And to me, that was totally wrong. I think it's when that happens, the MP uses his power to the Prime Minister, and he controls the executive, he controls the legislative, and whatever else that he wants to control. And I say, no, that would not happen with Tobias Clement. Not now. And I think we still have a long way to go in terms of getting that resolved, and it must be resolved. Either in the near future, I do hope, but let's see what will go on. And it is where I am. Yes, I do have a fight on my hand, Mr. Grant, just for democracy to work well for its people. And if at the end of the day I can get this democracy in Grenada to be working for our Grenadian people, then I would have done what I said and I started to do in this context of separating myself so that at least what is a country without checks and balances? Even though we have the Westminster style democracy, and where you have a government that have all the constituencies and hold almost all branches of government without checks and balances, the position of opposition should bring healthy debate and development to our country. Healthy debate is in that we would open up and we would ask the responsible question. We would open up and hold people accountable. We'll open up and see what is there, and let not government function almost in a clandestine way as some people that it is functioning now. So that is where I
Mr. Clement, let me say thank you very much, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Sir, let me remind you that the people will judge. The people will judge.
That is what I say, let the people judge, make a judgment.
They will. They will. You got winners. You're going to have some losers out there as well, but they will judge. It's up to you. It's up to you to deliver on your promises. We have been made so many promises in this country, sir. People just don't know who to believe anymore. Seriously, they just don't know who to believe. We've been lied to. We've been stolen from. They've done so much to us as a people, sir. But who was it? I think it was Nick Brathwaite who said we are a resilient people. Was it Mr. Brathwaite who said that, former Prime Minister? Yeah, I think it was. I hope you turn out to be resilient, sir. You got a long road ahead of you. People are going to be watching you. Be prepared. Be prepared. They started coming at you this morning. They started coming at you this morning, and believe me, they ain't through yet.
I say to you, Grant, it's all in the hands of the Lord, and
Amen.
He that is able to keep from falling. So I will do what I have to do, and the rest is up to the Lord. And so He will satisfy our thoughts and our disposition as He sees it fit. I always believe that it is the Lord who determines who rises and who falls. And if for this moment I am to stand, I stand but by the grace of the Lord.
Same here, sir. Anytime, sir. Anytime. And as long as you're willing to,
let me, before I leave, Mr. Grant, extend my appreciation to all the frontline workers out there, even those that we will not talk about and see as frontline workers, the teachers who are teaching in the schools, the ambulance workers, the doctors, nurses, the policemen, and all the essential workers out there who have been serving our people in this time. We cannot but appreciate what they are doing. Thank you, and may God bless us all. Thank you.
Mr. Clement, I pray His blessings on you too, sir. We're expecting a lot. We're expecting a lot from you. Right, Kellen?
Yes. And as a former state Georgia, as somebody who, as you probably know, we worked in the media. You are a legend in the media, but I've been in journalism for the last 20 years or so, and so I think it is up to us. We as you said, we would have seen politicians make tons of promises, right? I mean, you know, we can publish books and articles on those promises. And so when politicians, you know, come and they say things, I think we as a faith estate, we have to shine a light, right? They say the pen is mightier than the sword, but we also have to shine a light and ensure that they are held accountable, especially in this environment in Grenada where it feels like a one-party state, right?
It is a one-party state. What do you mean it feels like?
It is. You're right, right? And I think it is incumbent upon the fourth estate to essentially play that role of holding politicians' feet to the fire, regardless of who they are. And that is my issue. Politicians should not be our friends. As media workers, as journalists, they're not our friends.
Right.
Okay. Yes, we may get access to them for stories and things like that, but at the end of the day, we ought to play an independent role. And that's all I would say. And Mr. Clement, I will be, you know, holding on to a lot of what you said, and I would remind you if there are any issues that we would have reneged on in the future.
You know, one thing I'm really happy about, Kellen, at least he had the gall to come and sit here with us this morning. He had the gall, and I have nothing but admiration for that, because for years I've been trying to get a slew of other people in government to come here and sit and face the music. Joke you're making. Joke you're making. Mr. Clement, God bless you, sir. Parting word, my dear friends, from the Holy Scriptures as we pull the curtain down on today's edition of Sundays with George Grant. The first book of Corinthians, chapter 1, verses 26 to 29. I quote, "Brothers and sisters, think of what you were when you were called. Not many of you were wise by human standards. Not many of you were influential. Not many of you were of noble birth. But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. God chose the lowly things of this world and the despised things and the things that are not, to nullify the things that are, so that no one may boast before him." Pilgrims, check it out yourself. I didn't write that. He did. First book of Corinthians, chapter 1, 26 to 29. On that note, my dear friends, I wonder what we have in the kitchen today. I am hungry. I am hungry. Cullen, are you having us over for lunch?
That was good. George, yesterday I did. So because of this quarantine, I've been doing a lot of home cooked Caribbean recipes. Yesterday I did some pilau, so you can join me. The MPs is welcome to come as well.
Mr. Clement, we going for pilau?
Yes.
Well, maybe I would have, after I'm finished here, I would have a salad to go with it, a good green garden salad. No meat, just salad.
Right. From backyard, so you can bring some from, if you say you have a kitchen garden at home, so you can set up a consignment.
Actually, Tobias, I'm glad to hear you mention salads. I've been eating a lot of those lately. Good for you. Take care, everybody. Thanks a lot. God bless you all.